Welcome back to another video, my friend. I'm Blake and you're you, and this is Izzet Pyromancer in Explorer. Now, let's start taking a look at this very cool, very fun, low curve deck. Obviously, it is built around the namesake of the deck, the Young Pyromancer. 2 mana, 2/1 human shaman. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery speed, create a 1/1 red elemental creature token. So we are planning to swarm the board with these 1/1 tokens as our main way of winning in this game. Now let's first look at the creatures. It also 4 copies of Ledger Shredder. Incredibly card, pairs super nicely. We're double spelling all the time, so this thing is going to get huge and is really our other second win con and is really an equal win con as the Young Pyromancer. Now, we also are running 4 of 1 Mind, which is a 3 mana draw 2 cards. Sorcery doesn't sound that good, but if you control a human and a non-human, you do that for just 1 blue mana. So we have a non-human in Ledger Shredder and a human in Young Pyromancer, but that's not quite enough to make it go off. So we also are running 4 Soul-Scar Mage is another human, and it's a 1/2 prowess, so it pairs super nicely with all the instants and sorceries we're going with. Now, we also want to level it out on the non-human side, so we also are running 4 Pteramander. This is a 1/1 flyer that late in the game with all the instants and sorceries in our yard becomes a 5/5 flyer and can really finish a game on its own. And then our last creature of the deck is a single Crackling Drake, just for a little bit of late game pop. It can draw us a card and become a huge flying menace. Not menace in the terms of the keyword, but just menace in the terms of it's really good. Now, the suite of sorcerer or instants we are running mostly revolve around card draw, just to cycle us through the deck as well as get a lot of things in on the board, get our creatures on board, and just a little bit of removal. So we have 4 copies of Consider, 3 Fading Hopes, which is a tempo play, but can also protect our creatures. So when we have something like only 1 Young Pyromancer out and no other creatures in hand, Fading Hope is definitely key to save our creatures, because if they get taken out in the early game, we really don't have much of a shot. 4 copies of Opt, and then 4 copies of Play with Fire can either hit those little pesky aggro creatures or can scry 2 and deal damage to our opponent. 1 Spikefield Hazard, which is sort of actually a land. 1 Strangle, 3 Chart a Course for some more card draw, and then the 4 really important of 1 Minds. For lands, if you count the Spikefield Hazard as a land, we are running just 20 lands, very low curve deck. I'm just running whatever dual lands I had, and I threw in a copy of Sokenzan and Otawara. So that is the deck. I hope you enjoy it. Now, before we get into some games, I do have one request for you. I am really trying to grow this channel to eventually someday be monetized, and I need 1,000 subscribers to do that. I know I'm a really long way off at the time of recording this video, and if you could consider subscribing, I would greatly appreciate it. I know that subscribing doesn't really mean much on YouTube these days. You know, I don't use it myself really, but it would greatly help me if you could take the time to hit that button. So without further ado, let's jump into some games and see if this deck is any good in Explorer. Alright, jumping into our first game here, we see a Pteramander and a Young Pyromancer, along with 3 lands. I think that is a perfectly acceptable hand to keep here, going up against Pablo Archer. Good luck to you, Pablo the Archer. And let's see what kind of games we can get. So, right off the bat, we're going to be interested in what kind of colors they play and see if they potentially have that early removal. Pteramander getting removed early isn't the biggest problem, but if they remove Pteramander and then subsequently follow up with a removal of Young Pyromancer, then we really are in trouble. Okay, this is a card I'm not familiar with, so let's take a moment to read this. A 1 mana, 0/4 defender, transform it for 3, and it becomes a 3/4 menace. Wow, and then they can make us discard and draw. Interesting card, but I don't think I'm too worried about it. I think we just put down the Young Pyromancer, hope it doesn't get removed, and then next turn we get to start cracking out some elementals. This luckily doesn't get to do anything till turn 3, but it is a pretty interesting card. Thoughtseize is totally fine here. We don't really care if they get rid of our Fading Hope. I guess Consider actually would have been worse for us, I feel like, because then they could have shut off our card draw, but they really don't want us bouncing their guy. So we don't need a 5th land here for sure. So we're just going to do that. And then we are going to go ahead and just make another elemental. I guess we'll hold on to that. We'll put the Soul-Scar Mage down first. Only the Pteramander is going to be able to get in because of this giant concealing curtain. But I wonder if they're going to transform this on this turn to the Revealing Eye. Okay, Croxa, it is good, but we are just going to get rid of the Steam Vents and take the damage. We would much rather have the Play with Fire. This looks like a discard-themed deck for sure. Now, the question is, do we Play with Fire to get our Scry, or do we just put down another Young Pyromancer? First, I think we send the board for sure. Let's see how that goes. Get a little damage in. They can chump block, no problem. get some damage. I think we put down another Young Pyromancer. They'll probably have a way to make us discard this Play with Fire. But I think I'd rather discard the Play with Fire than the Young Pyromancer, ultimately, is how I decided that. Now, as long as we can chain together some card draw spells, we should be okay. Of One Mind is exactly the kind of card we're looking for. That is perfect. I would love to pick up a second red source here, actually. Could be kind of nice. But this overall isn't too bad either. Let's go ahead and get a bunch of damage in. Luckily, they don't have anything that can make trades or that can kill our Young Pyromancers when we swing into, so we're in a really great position here. Now we're just going to put down both of these. They seem to have more discard stuff than removal. They also are stuck on 2 lands, so that's pretty unfortunate for our opponent. They didn't have a good game here, and it allowed us to just rock them. So let's keep going and see if we can get a better matchup game. Okay, going first with a slightly more awkward hand with no red sources. We're going first, but we do have an opt, which I kind of like looking for that source, and we get to put out a Pteramander. I think I'm willing to risk it. We are pretty low on drawing our lands, so we'll see if this is the right play. Maybe you do really want to mulligan until you find both sources, a blue and a red. And if my land base was a little better with the rares I had, we would be less likely to have this. I have about 7 of the untapped duels in here of different kinds, plus the 4 pathways. So I guess it's pretty good. Okay, I think that is actually pretty good here. We're going to swing in for our chip damage and hold up our opt, just so we have a little more information to work with. It looks like they're playing potentially Selesnya. They're playing a tap land. They're playing the Temple, so we'll see what they're going with here. Usually when people play tap lands, I'm not too worried. We also see Hall, so green, white, and blue. So not exactly sure. It could be the Bant Spirits list, I suppose. We are still in Platinum, not even Diamond. So you still run into a good amount of non-meta decks down here at this middle point of the ladder here. So we'll see what our opponent Arls is playing against here. Okay, it looks like they're just going to be passing, probably. So we're going to go ahead and opt, looking for probably just about anything but a 3rd land. Would love to find, I guess we have another creature. I think any card draw spell would be great, just like that. That's perfect. Love to see it. Just want to keep kind of cycling through the deck here. So let's go ahead and put down a Soul-Scar Mage. And then I think we might even want to hold the Consider until next turn to buff up our Consider, because we've kind of got enough mana to do what we want with. But we'll see how it plays out. So let's go ahead and attack with our Pteramander here, and see what they are interested in doing. Yeah, I think I'm good for that play of holding Consider, having more ways to buff our Soul-Scar Mage next turn. We've also gonna have a Strangle in there. All right, so they are gonna ramp here most likely. They're gonna have a 4-drop on turn 3. It's very powerful. Growth Spiral is a very, very good card. It's one of my favorites. And we're going to be in a little bit of trouble here if they have the 4th land. So we'll see what they're doing. This could certainly be a problem, especially since they're going to start playing big threats, and really we just have 3 damage and 2 damage to somewhere. And we don't even have the option to double spell these together at the moment with a lack of red mana. So we could be in a little bit of a problem. We also want to get out our second Soul-Scar Mage, so this mana is making things a little bit awkward. Yes, and it is looking like Bant, but it'll be interesting to see, is Bant the right color? Is that green, white, blue? Tell me in the comment section if I'm wrong. I sometimes get my 3 color pairs mixed up on what the names of them are if it's a deck I don't have in Commander. Okay, do I Consider now? That could help us look for a 4th red land, but I can also still do that on my next turn anyway. I think we're going to hold it up and give ourselves some more power. All right. Now we are definitely looking for another red source, because we also want to be able to play this Crackling Drake at some point. It's going to be a very good card to get down and hopefully go over the top of whatever they're trying to do. They just played 4 mana and haven't played a single card, so I don't know if they're planning to flash something in here. Do we take another Pteramander? How many? Okay, we only have 1 instant sorcery in, but we're going to get more in. It is another creature we can play now, but I really think we're digging for red. I think that's the play. I think we're digging for a red source right now. Okay, let's go ahead and swing in, see if they're going to flash something in, and then we'll hold up a little bit of interaction for us. See if our opponent is interested in making a play. Maybe not. Maybe so. Could be. Could be not. Let's see what they're doing. They're really thinking hard. Shark Typhoon. Okay, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I want to keep my Pteramander alive, so I guess we'll make sure they're going to block the Pteramander, and then we can hit it with Play with Fire, luckily. So I'm pretty sure they'll block the Pteramander. Yeah, that makes sense. Could have gotten 1 extra damage through, but I thought maybe there's a small chance they'll block the Soul-Scar Mage, but I guess I should have just blocked and then taken my extra damage. And then we can go ahead and do this for 1 extra damage on the Pyromancer. Play with Fire can't help us scry. But I really think we're just digging for red, because we can still play red on this turn. That's exactly what I wanted. Perfect. Now we can get that Crackling Drake down next turn if we want, and we also can now get this Soul-Scar Mage down. So I think that was a nice turn for us. We have the option to Strangle next turn, turn these into 2/3s. We can also drop down the Crackling Drake to draw us another card. I'm feeling better. Now they are certainly going to play threats eventually, right? Okay, that's pretty bad. Crackling Drake will now become very important, I think. So let's get this down now. We have a double spell here if they play a small creature. Young Pyromancer is a good draw there. That's a good draw. Doomscar for a 3-for-1 is pretty good, though. That's pretty good. So let's see what they've got. Also, my apologies. It sounds like the music has been off this whole time. I didn't even catch it, but it might be a little bit of an awkward game. So sorry if there's no music. Arena is just being weird today, I guess. Do they have something for our Crackling Drake? Ooh, they sure do. They sure do. Okay, well then, we are going to double spell Shredder into Young Peasy. What are we tossing? I think we want both of those spells over the counter. So we're going to get rid of this. 4 mana. Once we get to 4 mana, we don't really need a lot more. Obviously, you want to start chaining stuff together, but I think we can afford to keep the Charter Course and the Strangle. Unfortunately, the Strangle seems terrible in this matchup. I don't know if they're running Planeswalkers, like if they have the 5 mana Teferi is their main plan, and this is a control deck. I'm still not 100% on board with what they're trying to do. Okay, Krasis. I think I've been starting to see this deck. I mean, that's a huge problem for us. We don't really have anything that can deal with that. So I guess we'll just chart a course, and we're going to look for another damage spell. Ooh, okay, so we can, here's what we can do. We can drop this down on the red side so that we can double spell, get rid of this. So we're actually going to trash the opt here because we need double red, and then we're going to Strangle. We're going to try to get around this. Hopefully we can just make a big enough board. We have to get rid of the Pteramander here, sadly, even though that would be a good card in this, because I really want to play with fire right now. Okay, perfect. Now we've got 3 elementals. We've got some board presence, and hopefully that can get us around stuff. Now, if they have another Hydroid Krasis for the same amount, then we're going to be really in trouble, because we just spent a lot of resources to make that play happen. And this deck is probably much, much, much better in the late game. We probably needed to win by about this point if we're going to make it. And Coma will certainly cause us a lot of problems. Luckily, we've got some air threats, and we've got some chump blockers. So that could squeak us by in the end. I do wish Ledger Shredder was a little bigger already. But sometimes it do be like that, you know? Sometimes it do be like that. Luckily, we can turn on our Pteramander pretty much for free. So hopefully we get to steal a free kill of a Coma's Coil. There's still a small chance we could come back. There is. Because they're all ground threats. Now, if they play another Krasis, I'm kind of feeling like we'd probably just lose, because their Krasis is going to be bigger than our Pteramander at this point. And it's going to gain so much life. If we see the Hydroid Krasis, I'll probably have to scoop, because I think they just have us. But we'll see. There's still a small chance we could come back from this. I have now that I say this, I've been seeing some form of this deck kind of popping up a little bit. It's Bant, and it runs Hydroid Krasis, and then I don't know what the other pieces are. I need to figure out what this deck is called so that I can learn about it. Maybe play it on the channel, because I'm a big fan of Coma, especially if it's always running Coma, and that's like a thing, and that's a real deck. I'm a big fan of Coma. I think it's very cool. I also love Hydroid Krasis. Hydroid Krasis was a part of the Simic Flash deck of the Ravnica Allegiance Standard, and that's the only time I've ever gotten to Mythic. I played a super good Simic Flash deck that I just mastered and played a ton that one season. And so, okay, going to give Indestructible. Not sure what their purpose is here. I guess so they can swing without us throwing like 19 things in front of it. But I still don't think that's a good play. So Maybe they're going to Doomscar, though. Ooh. Yeah, that's probably the game. That's a very nice play. I'm going to see what we draw just for fun, but that was a very good play. Don't really know what we could draw to get out of this at this point. And it's a land. All right, we're going to give it to him. That was a good game by them. We were a turn or two too slow. Let's get another one. Okay, pretty interesting. I think 2 lands with both colors in this game. I'm pretty sure that's good enough to keep. So let's go ahead and keep it and see what happens. I think I'll put down the Soul-Scar Mage first instead of the Pteramander. I think is a better play. And then turn 2, we can slap down the Pteramander and then play with fire to the face while attacking with the Soul-Scar Mage and go pretty aggressive in this game here. So let's see how that works out for us. Okay, we do see an elf, so we may actually want to play with fire on that instead, but I don't think that changes our play here because they're going to try to set up a turn 3. Some sort of 3-drop here. That's going to be very good. Turn 1 elf is always scary to see. Topiary Stomper. Actually, that's not the worst thing because it can't block for a while, but I do like the Stomper. I think it's a pretty neat card. Okay, now I think we do still go with blue, and then we definitely go with Pteramander. Now, do we hit this? They've already got 3 lands out, so I don't know how important this is. I think we actually just hit face here. Island. It's a 4th land. I think we look for plays. Okay, I'll attack. This cannot block or attack until they have 7 lands. Pretty fun card in my opinion. 4th land, so they're up to 5 mana now. Really need to turn on these Pteramanders probably. Okay, they were interested in trading that away. That's interesting. They didn't even need to. They could just use this. I did not understand that play. That seems like a terrible play. The ooze is going to get huge. Okay, what do we do here? Luckily, we can bounce the ooze pretty easily next turn, so that's good. We're a pretty long ways away from turning on our Pteramanders, but we can double Fading Hope, get those to 3 instants in our yard. Questing Beast is going to be a big problem. My dog says hi. I think we go no blocks here. Sadly, we're not seeing very many Young Pyromancers, so it's hard to play when you don't have your main card. We'll put down a blue here, and then we certainly give them the option of hitting some more things out of... Hey, what are you doing? He's getting into my tea. Okay. In turn, we let them potentially buff up some more. Are there any more creatures for him to hit? I don't think so. I guess maybe that's why he did the play with the Llanowar Elf earlier. He wanted to grow the ooze. So that's fine. Okay. While he's doing that, we're going to bounce it. We do get to scry, so that's nice. Very good. Play with fire. He can't grow it right now, so we could actually hit it with the play with fire. It's not bad. Let's keep that. Really got to get these Pteramanders turned on. That's the whole play right now. And then I think we bounce the beast while it attacks. I think that seems good enough. Just make huge tempo play. You can just play it right now, but that's still kind of okay. Okay, so he puts that down. He doesn't currently have a way to grow it, so our play with fire will get to destroy it this turn. So that's pretty cool. He's just going to wipe the graveyard. Makes perfect sense. We're going to hit right here. He's going to swing in for 4 damage. Oh, and he's getting rid of all those. Wow, so our Pteramander is not going to turn on. That's terrible. I don't know how we win this one. I did not even think about the reasoning of that play, but that makes so much sense. Yeah, this is tough. It's incredibly tough with that graveyard hate. Oof. Brutal. Well, let's go ahead and attack this turn. We can really only attack with 1. And then let's chart a course. Not even sure what we're looking for at this point. Not a land, though. Alright, I think they got us. Not a great showing from the deck today. Let's keep going. Let's get one more game in. One more game here, team. Okay, I think this is a better start. We're going to have both colors. We've got a Soul-Scar Mage into a Young Pyromancer. I feel quite decent about that. Now, if we just draw a way to turn on the of one mind for 1, then we're really rolling. Alright, you see the Epicure? Turn 1, so we're probably playing against Rakdos, or it could be, small chance it's Mardu Greasefang. I've seen almost no Greasefang anymore on the ladder, which is a little sad because it's a cool deck, but people are just kind of off of it right now. So probably just some sort of Rakdos, either mid-range or sacrifice deck. We shall see. Deadly Dispute, still making me think mid-range here, or probably sacrifice. One of those two. Love that deck. I think it's very good. We'll see if we have any luck against it here. I would rather this get Voltage Surge than our Pyromancer. They do have a lot of removal for small spells, though, so this could actually be a pretty tough matchup, because I don't know if we're going to be able to keep our Young Pyromancer alive. If it can survive this turn, I think I will hold up a Fading Hope and leave it up to protect it. I think it's that important. Okay, now that's going to be a huge problem, sadly. That gets to just obliterate our Young Pyromancer pretty much for free. I guess let's go Pteramander. And then that turns on Up One Mind. And then we can hold up a Fading Hope to protect the old Young Peasy. Okay, this is sad. This is really hard to play around. I think the Mayhem Devil is a terrible matchup for us. But we'll see. Maybe they won't have ways to sacrifice things just yet. Might even be correct to bounce the Devil before whatever happens here. Before whatever they put down that they want to sacrifice. Unless they just have a sacrifice spell, then that could be a blowout if they have the Deadly Dispute. Oof. Yeah. Alright, well, we're going to bounce this then. That's equally brutal. Opt, sure. That is brutal. Okay, can we come back from this? We've not really had a good sustainable game with this deck, so I'm not sure how well it pairs up in a lot of these matchups, really. Alright, let's chill there, I guess. Another Devil is just brutal for us. Okay, actually, we have a nifty little play here. We can opt, make one of these. I don't need that. We draw, and then we get to play with fire and block with an elemental. So that actually turned out pretty cool, huh? Okay, that was good. Still, another Devil out is a pretty big problem. Okay, luckily we get to Of One Mind. That's an amazing little mini combo there. Now, Charter Course is fine because we don't need all these lands. We'll keep the Pathway to give us options. So we've got blue, blue, red, blue. Let's get another red down. Now, what's the play? Do we go Ledger Shredder? Do we hold up an Opt? I think we go Shreddy Boy. Put down another threat and start getting that turned on. They're going to want a double spell. If we can live through this turn without too much getting pinged from the Mayhem Devil, we might have a shot. We might have a shot at coming back. Depends on what they have in hand. If they can get rid of the Pyromancer and a couple elementals, I'll feel pretty sad. Yeah, I mean, that's terrible. I'm actually just going to concede. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. That is an absolute blowout. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you thought in the comment section. See you in the next one, my friend.